So welcome back. This is part 2 and final part of the documentary 90 Minutes Closer to Antigua. The story about Bill Godfrey, a good friend of mine, and myself race across the Atlantic Ocean. In the Woodvale Trans-Atlantic Rowing Race, it's a 5,500 kilometer race from the Canary Islands to Antigua. Billy and I rowed in shifts of hour and a half on, hour and a half off, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 50 days and 12 hours. In this episode, you'll see us battling some mid-Atlantic storms. You'll see us crying, you'll see us laughing, and finally, you'll get us climbing off our boat in Antigua onto the quayside to get our family in our arms again.
Pete's rowing has really improved. Kate's been a huge help in coaching us technically, giving us a lot more boat speed.
Good. We're going to be leaving shortly, so
our deadline has arrived for us to crate off our boat to the Canary Islands. I must admit it's been very, very stressful. It looks like our water maker is giving us some problems, and the next time we are able to check it will be once we get to the Canary Islands. It'll be a close one. It's our most important piece of equipment.
We're going to do it for our country. We're going to make it proud.
Bill and I are completely passionate about South Africa. Two South Africans are going to do this race. We want to do it for South Africa. We love this country. We want to bring the trophy back to South Africa. We want to make the people of South Africa proud.
It's going to be really, really hard saying goodbye to him.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And you?
And it's going to be really, really sad.
Once we arrived at the airport, I could see for the first time the amount of strain that my family had been under in the build-up to me leaving.
I was quite torn at the airport. I was very anxious to get going, but it was tough saying goodbye to my family.
I was very sad to say goodbye to Hannah and Kim because I knew it would be a long time till I saw them again. Just off the coast of Africa is a group of islands called the Canaries, named after dogs, strangely, and not birds. The quaint port of San Sebastian La Gomera saw the arrival of just under 30 boats 3 weeks before the start date. The competitors arrived about 2 weeks before to prepare the boats and to get everything ready. When we arrived, customs officials had a nasty surprise for us.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating for us. Everyone else is busy working on their boats. Our boat's not here. One of the first to arrive in the Canaries, and it's still not here at the start.
It's very, very, very frustrating.
Sorted out our stuff. We just need to pack it on the boat. The boat's not here. All the other competitors have been really great. Everyone is very helpful and supportive, and everyone's offered help if we need it to get our boat ready on time, because we are so pushed for time.
Should we get some food?
Food is a very, very much a must.
When we saw the competitors for the first time and how fit they looked, how big they were, and how organised their boats were, we got quite a fright. Bill and I were a lot more underweight than most of the other guys there. And obviously you need extra weight to cope with the length of this race. So we knew we had our work cut out for us. Some of the top crews that were there were Pendovi Swift, Go Commando, No Fear. We're looking awesome. We knew that if we wanted to win this race, we'd have to pull something out the bag.
It's supposed to be on this one. What do you know? We have to have our boat in the water by Monday morning because that's when the water maker's being commissioned. Still, your boat, you've got to suddenly do a rush job on it. You're about to row across an ocean, you can't do a rush job. It's really f***ing annoying. I want to get into a boat and start rowing now. This is what I'm here for.
We had put in a collective amount of energy into the race, equivalent to 6 years. We've spent 1.4 million rand in getting to the start of the race. And now everything was in jeopardy because some customs official on one of the islands in the Canaries had decided they didn't like the color of our boat, or whatever it was, or we didn't know where South Africa was, and everything was now at this pinnacle, and we didn't have our boat. We had no reasons why it wasn't getting to us. We just knew that the customs officials were not releasing it. And then miraculously, just a few days before the start of the race,
Hey!
hallelujah,
Hallelujah! You actually cannot understand how relieved we are. I mean, standing here for 4 days, 5 days. How long have we been here? 5 days, twiddling our thumbs. Now it's eventually arrived, but now the work starts. It's going to be a late night tonight and a long day tomorrow.
Yes.
At last. Let's go. Now we're just going to win a race across an ocean. We had to try and consume 8,000 calories a day, and it's designed not to be too repetitive, otherwise you'd get bored and not want to eat. You had to enjoy the food, make sure that you had the energy to be able to row.
We realized that our water maker was the most important piece of equipment that we had. So we had organized for one of the agents to actually come out to the Canary Islands to meet us, to make sure that our water maker was working properly. And thank goodness that we did that, because when we put the boat in the water for the first time and checked it, it wasn't working. And luckily, the agent had actually bought the correct spare part and was able to fix it. It was a close call.
The only reason it's water is because it is an ocean rowing boat.
Yeah.
And there's the added safety that you've got emergency water supply on board.
We couldn't believe how strict scrutineering was. They spent quite a few hours going through our boat with us. They went over everything. They failed us on our batteries. We needed a new aerial for our VHF radio, and we needed to install a cabin pump, and we were not able to leave or start the race without getting those fixed.
This is an amazing race. Camaraderie between competitors is phenomenal. Everyone's helping each other out, making sure they're ready to go. As the boats get in the water, the excitement builds more and more. You keep going through in your head, what have you forgotten? What have you left out? What could you have done better?
There's a whole series of different situations that can happen, from a minor medical situation to evacuation from a boat. If a boat gets into difficulty, gets capsized, they can be in the middle, they can be thousands of miles from land. So it may not be the safety boat that's our support boat that's closest to the boat. We'll coordinate getting a commercial vessel onto that boat. We'll communicate with that commercial vessel. We constantly monitor the ocean rowing boats at sea.
Planning our route is going to be a calculated gamble. The whole objective is to get into the trade winds as quick as possible without having to do much extra distance. Rowing is very different to sailing. Because we are so slow, luck will have a lot to do with it.
And it's just a chip and a putt.
Just another 910 odd miles to go.
Yeah, that's a chip and a putt.
We've really met some awesome people. Unfinished business, the all-girls crew, trying it for a second time after all 4 of them in different boats didn't make it across in the last race. And then you've got Row of Life. Between the 2 of them, have only got 1 good leg. For me, it's been at least 3 years of build-up and anticipation and preparation and dreaming. Yeah, I'm pretty nervous. It's a daunting task. My emotions are just all over the show. Sometimes I'm excited, sometimes I'm scared shitless.
If I was single and had no children, I think it would be a lot easier to leave. But the fact that both Bill and I are married and we've got children, I think makes a massive difference to us. It's quite heart-rending leaving. The unknown is a massive factor. I mean, the sea could throw anything at us. Those kind of thoughts, what happens if I don't get to see my family again? I've never been involved in a race where there's so much emotion at the start of a race. Looking over at Paul, one of the solo racers, watching him say goodbye to his wife and 2 children was incredibly sad to see. We knew that he was going to be out there for a lot longer than we were. I'm glad that my family are not here. It would just be too emotional. Well, this is it. It's the moment of truth. It's unbelievable to think that we've got 2 hours to go and not 2 years. It seems like yesterday that our boat arrived in East London. Row hard. It was so weird pushing off the jetty, knowing that we weren't going to be on land again for at least a month, maybe a month and a half.
I've never felt more ready for a race in my life. This is the big one. When the siren went off, someone shouted, "Go Bokke." I've never been so amped in my life. It was insane. We were rowing out the blocks like we were at the Olympic finals, 2,000 meters. We had 5,000 Ks left to go. bend over swift, and the reason why it was pushing us hard on the same course. No Fear and Go Commando were in a slightly different tack, but they were also rowing hard. There were also the fours, Pura Vida and Unfinished Business, the girls' crew, and they were going well. Fortunately, they were in a different class, so we didn't have to worry about them.
The route that we had planned was 2,668 nautical miles. We had 5,000 kilometers to go. We had finally got underway and we had got into our rowing rhythm. There was an amazing amount of relief. Both Bill and I felt it. The weather was perfect, we had nice winds from behind, and it stayed like that for a few hours. But then about 3 hours into the race, everything changed. We had wind from side, wind from the front.
The boats started spreading out on their own courses. Pete and I were left out there on our own, and the next time we'd see any of the other competitors would probably only be in Antigua. Then it was just the Atlantic Ocean, Pete and I. We were going to have to look after each other.
The swell started picking up, getting very, very choppy, and little did we know. By early evening, the weather had hit us really, really hard. We realized that we were heading towards our first storm on our first day. Bill started getting really, really seasick. It was very, very, very hard for him.
It's day 3 of our race, and we were not expecting this kind of sea. The sea's been all over the place. We had swells coming in from all directions, and this boat is like a cork bobbing up all over the place. Poor Bull has been very, 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 very seasick. For the first 2 days he didn't eat a thing, and he was continually throwing up, which made him very weak. Yes. I can't actually believe what we've let ourselves in for. Jeez. If I'd known what it was going to be like now, I don't know if I would have done it. Very, very, very hectic. I don't know what I've let myself in for, and neither does Bill.
We heard that Andy from the boat Titanic Challenge had been washed overboard and that a major rescue operation had been underway and that they had managed to rescue him. They pulled out of the race. It was a big wake-up call for us.
I've got to take my hat off to Bill. He's done extremely, extremely well. He really has seen this one out. He's been extremely sick, very sick. He's just pulled through. He's been magnificent. He's not 100% there yet. We've still got a day or two to go before we get some improvement in him. It's still very, very, very daunting. We've got a long way to go. This is right in the beginning. How's it going, Bill?
Good. Had a nice tailwind picking up. Nice bit of chop in the water, pushing us along. Damn sight better than I felt for the last couple of days, that's for sure. The sea is going wild. I mean, last night I did a 90-minute session where I felt like I was the ball in the World Cup final between two monstrous packs of forwards. For 90 minutes solid, I got buffeted from two sides by 4.5 5-meter waves.
Police. Biltong. One of our prerequisites for the race was that we had biltong with us. In case we vacuum packed 3 kilograms of this biltong to little packs, put it in our luggage, and off we went. Just as we were landing at Heathrow Airport, the captain says, just remember that it's completely illegal to bring biltong into this country, and if you're caught doing it, you'll be liable for criminal record and or a £5,000 fine. Dilemma. I said to Bill, should we bring it in? I mean, what are we going to do? So I said, no, let's just go for it. Okay, so I was speaking to a BA pilot just after that, and he reckons that they treat it a little bit like narcotics. So our race could have had quite a dodgy start. And Kets and Bill in jail. Morning of our 7th day. Quite tired. Obviously not used to this very rough sea again. Oh, just not huge, just very choppy. Just had a visit from about 100 dolphins. It's amazing, the way to start a day.
Bill Godfrey and Peter Van Kets set off with dozens of rowers from the Canary Islands on Sunday on the arduous Woodvale Trans-Atlantic Race. Van Kets brought us up to date on their progress, and he also had some good news.
We are situated 680 miles southwest of the Canary Islands, and this morning we took first position in a fleet of 23 boats.
How's it, Bill?
How's it, Pete? How you doing, bud?
Good, I'm fine. And you? End of your session now.
Cool.
Yeah.
About time, man.
Been a tough one.
90 minutes closer to Antigua.
40 days on a boat, it took me to get this remote to an island on the seven seas. I was brought there by a breeze, and I'm waiting for that distant shore. I thought I couldn't take anymore. My brain was tired, my body thin. I was being
Hooray, hooray. It looks like today we for the first time we've got into the trade winds. We've still got 1,900 miles to go though. I mean, it's very, very far. But once we're in the trade winds, just anything can happen. I mean, it's following wind. It's like going downhill all the way to Antigua. So
It's always pretty scary to see a ship heading our way. Such a small boat is invisible to them. Being hit would be game over, and they wouldn't even know that we've been there.
and it's hot in the tropics, eh? Jeez, it's a very, very nice day. We're 38 miles ahead of the next boat, and Bill is now sending some emails.
Having the satellite phone was fantastic. We were always amazed at how many messages we would get a day. The support was awesome. Messages from people we'd never met and hopefully one day will. I felt like I was in the middle of a stadium with people around watching me. In the early hours of the morning, through dehydration and exhaustion, and sometimes start to hallucinate, the compass would turn into a cobra, and then I'd realize it had a ball in its mouth with all these numbers written on it. And coming out of the cabin one night, Pete told me that he was looking for a garage to get someone to fix the light.
Often we would see tennis courts on either side of us, or buildings like garages, storage houses. It's amazing how powerful the mind can be. I would fall asleep while I was rowing. I'd actually fall completely asleep and wake up off the chair with the oar in my ribs and in pain. Bills, how's it going?
Oh, good, It's been a long night. Been pounded here from the northeast. It's very strong winds and swells, and we're trying to keep perpendicular to that so we don't lose too much ground south. There you go. It's a lovely Atlantic weather system.
We loved rain squalls. The shampoo would come out, and this was our opportunity for a freshwater shower.
Give it a bit of
But we had to be prepared in case the squall didn't last long. I mean, often we would see it coming, we'd put shampoo in our hair, and it would veer off to the left or to the right, and we'd be left high and dry with shampoo in our hair.
Stop raining. Some running repairs. Oh, what you up to?
We had to focus on the small things and be proactive. Running repairs had to be done, but it was like playing chess in an earthquake. Hi, darling.
Gorgeous beast.
How are you doing?
All right, I've just been for a run and the wind is blowing like a hoolie, so I hope you've got something better.
It's blowing northeast, yeah, but we need a pure east because it's still hitting us on the side.
Oh, really? I can hear it actually.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's really tedious. Very broken bodies of the last 24 hours of slogging
really?
against it.
Ben rang me just before you rang me as well to say, Mummy, can I borrow your rod? And I was like, why? And he said, well, I broke the tip off mine and the fish pulled all the line off it.
Oh no, well, there must have been a big fish here.
I'm just not sure if it wasn't part of Africa, but hey. They said tell you that they love you lots. You sound on very good form.
I wasn't feeling on good form until I started speaking to you on the phone. I have to say I'm feeling pretty depleted. And I've got everything from the top of my crack all the way to my buttocks is aching. With blisters and chafe and all that. So
I'm sure.
I'm not the most comfortable of oaks in the world at the moment.
You're doing an amazing job.
I love you, Tons, and sleep tight, and I'll chat to you soon.
Dream of me. You're doing a wonderful job, darling.
The most asked question on this boat is, have you seen? Yeah. It's a photo book.
Oh, hello, my love.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, Kim, we're taking a bit of strain, eh?
What is the wind doing at the moment?
Well, it's still blowing northwest, northeast.
Yeah.
And it's pushing us south, and we've tightened up, and we're sort of going into the wind more or less, because we don't want to put out our parachute anchor yet. Which is a bit of a nightmare. So all the guys from behind are catching up, and that 18
No,
days
Peter,
work
they're
that
not
we've done-
catching up. You're 55 miles ahead. No, you're cooking and you're going to get wind, I promise, okay?
I've got
You're
one
gonna
from
get-
this afternoon's lunch. Tell Mercy was right about that expedition foods. How's Hannah?
Come say hello to Daddy. Tell him about his beard. Come tell him about his beard. Say hello, Dada.
Hello, Baba.
Hello, Dada.
Hello, Hannah. How are you, my girl?
You got a big beard.
I'm growing a big beard for you, okay? And Dada loves you, okay?
I love you too much, Dada.
Okay, you must move your butt to Antigua, okay? Because I'm going to scrape you when we get there. I know you're used to 90 minutes shots, okay? Love you lots, okay? Say bye to Hannah.
Bye-bye, Bubby. Bye-bye.
Bye, my love. Love you lots. I'm putting down now.
It was nice,
Yeah, it was very good. I'd much rather be there now.
Right, same here, but same here.
But you know what, Bill?
What, Peter?
We'd be there for a month and we'd go, yes, like, we should have stayed on the boat.
Sure.
And finished the race. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how we just have to endure. That's what.
That's exactly it. We've got to endure.
Billy, what do you think of the evening so far?
It's a beautiful evening. It's lovely. Got a nice tail conditions. The swell's not too big.
What's a tail condition, just by the way? Is that like a rash on your bum?
Yeah.
40 days they came and went, and there was more energy that had to be spent. Looked like a prisoner of war, and there's still no sign of that distant shore. When I'm dreaming of the one I love, the one that I'm thinking of, and it's a row, 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 that boat is short.
Oh, we're halfway. This is amazing. Actually, I don't know if it's daunting or happiness, but I think it's happiness.
Christmas Day for both Bill and I was definitely one of the low points of the race. It was just a hard time for us. We wanted to be with our family, but we knew we had a task on our hands and we had to remain focused. It was a tough day.
Christmas was quite a downer. We both missed our families a lot. The weather was hot. We just had keep slogging. Santa arrived in the shape of a very large whale. This picked up our mood a bit. He's just sitting right here. Right here. In fact, if he gets any close, he's going to clap us. You go, Pete, it's coming underneath us again. Oh, there's another one. So, Pete, what can you tell me, bud? Don't stop rowing just because you're going to talk.
No, I think the last 3 days have definitely been the most frustrating for us. Up to now, we've been about 90 to 100, in fact, to about 130 miles ahead of them. And if you look around you now, we're in the doldrums. 3 days we've been sitting like this. This is the first time we've had no wind against us. We've had hectic side wind, hectic headwind. Last night we put our parachute anchor. It's just, it's very testing, I must admit. But we're passing the test, and I think that's the most important thing. Now we just keep rowing. So what we've decided to do is to row 2 up for 15 minutes on each end of our shift. So we are on for an hour and a half, off for 1 hour. It's hard going, but we're very motivated just to prove to ourselves that we can actually do it. We can actually break through. Our bodies are broken at the moment. Our hands are shreds, our bottoms are shreds.
This is turning into an incredibly tight race. We've just lost a great deal of our lead by heading south. We've just squeaked in front of No Fear. The race was on to get to the better weather conditions further south. We had to carefully orchestrate our move to make sure we stayed ahead of No Fear.
And we're going down south. We're going to pick a fight.
We're up to second now. We're starting to pull back the South Africans, who seem pretty elusive. And they were sort of 100 miles ahead. Within 3 days, we've got them down to about 58 miles. And that's because we took a southerly route, and it's starting to really pay off now.
No Fear are in a good position, obviously, with weather, and they're obviously psyched because they're stonking through, coming from behind. They were well behind, and now they're flying through. Watch the space. This is where the race begins. For everyone, it's a straight line to Antigua now. Now it's down to who gets across the finish line first, and may the best crew win.
3.7.
Caught up on some sleep. Well done, bro. Joey Peace just said he got up to 3.7. Happy New Year.
Billy's just woken up.
Billy can't see anything at the moment because he's got this big bright light in his eyes, and he just had a sip of champagne and it's going in his mouth.
Just wishing everybody in South Africa Happy New Year! May 2008 be a blessed year for everybody. And to my family at home and to the rest of this race. We are still in the lead. We want to make South Africa proud for 2008. May 2008 start off well. Cheers!
Cheers!
Well, ek dink ek raak dronk.
Paddled in and out of hell on a 35-foot swell. Met our demons out at sea.
It's a calm day. One thing that's been getting to me is that no matter what you do, you can never be still in this boat.
I can hardly even stand. My sea legs have got me tired. All my muscles are hardwired.
Also starting to feel a little bit furry on my face. Never had a beard before.
Bit of oral hygiene a la Atlantic.
What's Teddy doing? Tell Uncle Moo.
Growing a big beard for Christmas.
Like Father Christmas. And what's he going to do with that beard? What's he going
Pick
to...
up our feet.
Is he going to tickle your feet? And what are you going to do when you see him?
Love him.
With more energy that had to be spent and looked like a prisoner of war, and there's still no.
We're still dicing it out with no fear. Every time we get an update, either we've taken 2 miles on them or they've taken 2 miles on us. It's neck and neck stuff. Okay, it is ranging between 24 and 28 miles, but we're ahead in a race like this. That's nothing. That's in one small mishap with the weather or something, and we've lost that.
The support vessel Sarah is on its way to come and see us, and it's now the 6th of January, and they're just coming to check up on us to see if we're still okay.
Okay, great. You look tired. You look tired.
Have you lost some weight now?
A little bit, eh?
It was really weird to see other humans again. We thought we were the only ones left on the planet.
Have you caught any fish?
They arrived and then just headed off. It was very surreal.
We were hit by our second storm. In the first evening of that storm, I was lying in my bunk and I heard a massive wave breaking over our boat, and it must have hit Bill really, really hard.
He rang me up and he said, we're going through really bad seas, and he said, I don't know if I'm going to make it and I want to say goodbye.
On the second day of the storm, the race organisers sent out an SMS on our satellite telephones to say that they advised us that we should put our para anchors out or use our drogue chutes. This wasn't an option for us as we were racing.
I knew in my heart that he was actually all right, but the fact that he thought he wasn't going to make it.
I'd never been in this situation before. I wasn't scared about losing my life. I was more afraid of not seeing my family again and them not seeing me. But admitting to my own mortality was a turning point. From that point on, I could take anything.
Well, after weeks of people telling us that we're going to get the trade winds and the east wind, here we are. The sea's very rough at the moment, but yes, it's pumping from behind us, and we've done our best mileage so far on the trip today. Very exciting, and there's a good few days of this. We're on the home stretch now.
I don't know if they can keep up the pace much longer and if they can keep up the lead. But I reckon we're probably stronger than the South Africans at the moment. They're just hanging on for dear life.
My hands are cool. I'm starting to get a better claw grip. Nothing like Pete's though. Pete's pretty nasty. Well, his hands are anyway.
Thanks, Bill.
Sorry, I'm not talking about his body either, because mine's worse.
Yeah, we agree.
Absolutely.
You get used to it, you know, you don't actually feel it after a while. Except the claw grip, the tendonitis. Basically what happens is you're gripping the oar like that for so long, 12 hours a day, that when you come off you can't straighten your fingers or actually close them anymore. So what I have to do now is when I go to sleep, I actually have to close my hand like that and sleep on top of it. Otherwise I wake up with a hand like this and I can't grip the oar, and it's excruciatingly painful.
634 nautical miles to go. Man,
we want to do this for South Africa. Eh?
We're doing this for home, but
yeah.
Doing this for South Africa, we're doing this for slummies. We're doing it because it's great. We're doing it to make everybody who thinks, oh, I can't do that, it's too hard, think again. Because if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want. We're just two ordinary oaks.
Yeah. So a bit of true South African grit and determination.
Yesterday, our sat phone packed up, so there's no ways of getting any weather information or updates on who's where, etc. Much more, we can't speak to our families, which is driving us absolutely insane. Our families are now sitting in Antigua. They arrived yesterday, waiting for us to get there.
We go through phases of being very stressed about them, obviously concerned that they don't know what's going on and that they're really missing the daily contact with us, knowing that they're not getting that anymore at this quite late stage of the game when they really need it. It's just fairly stressful.
We're as hard as we can to get there as quickly as possible and see our families. I mean, it's almost 2 months since I saw my kids, my wife. I really miss them.
How am I handling? Patches of stress, not too bad. Not hearing from the guys isn't wonderful. On the website yesterday, they showed they'd suddenly turned south, but it was obviously just a glitch on the website. And I was suddenly panicking as to why they suddenly turned south, and we don't know why, and hope one of them hasn't broken a leg, and they're both trying frantically to get home, and they've got no way of telling anybody there's anything wrong. But apart from that patch yesterday, I'm okay.
We've now got below 200 miles to go. It's fantastic, feeling really good.
Zigo, here we come! It was a beautiful afternoon. Bill was on oars and I was lying in the cabin resting. And I heard Bill stand up. He was very excited because we were so close to Antigua. And he shouted, "Come on, Atlantic Ocean! Give it to me, I can take anything!" And I put my head out. Bill, whatever you do, don't tempt the ocean like that. And 4 hours later, the biggest storm that I've ever been in all my years of sailing, just came out of the blue and whacked us.
We don't get it in
Dutch and the South Africans, they're afraid of the rain.
Yeah, we probably caught about 14 odd miles on them, something like that, and hopefully we could catch them.
We had 35-foot waves. The base of these waves were 20 meters wide, with white water breaking at the top of these swells. At times we had winds of in excess of 100 kilometers per hour. Especially at night. Couldn't see the compass that was 1 meter away from us. It was absolutely wild. I said to Bill, we're not racing anymore. We are now surviving. We have to make sure that this boat stays upright. If we don't stay upright in this storm, one of us, maybe even both of us, won't make the end.
Oh yeah, as well. 6 o'clock this morning, we were 17 miles behind them. Get it!
They suddenly slowed down really badly. I think that was probably one of the closest times that I came to cracking.
I think being out front for so long has been huge pressure, and I think they've shown tremendous character in the way they've handled it and maintained the leads.
Again, the ocean's not letting us go home lightly.
The conditions are really hectic. Massive side swell and wind clapping us. We are making slow headway, but made headway nevertheless, which is getting us closer to home.
I heard Bill shouting at me from the oars. He was busy rowing at the time. Big wave had just crashed over the boat and he was trying to tell me something. I opened up the hatch And he shouted that the EPIB, which is our emergency positioning indicator radio beacon, had been activated somehow, and that its strobe light was flashing and he was unable to see anything. A few hours later, still in the storm, and every now and then I can see ships' lights coming in from the distance, and they're getting closer and closer. I got the radio out and tried to call him. Eventually he came through and identified himself and basically told us that he was there to rescue us, and that he had received a call from the Marine Rescue Services in Falmouth.
What's the name of your vessel? The name of your vessel?
Golf, Quebec, uniform, Mike, Alpha, over.
That had radioed or phoned through to MRCC in Port-au-France, which is in Venezuela, and that a massive sea rescue had been launched for us.
We're actually a rowing boat. We're rowing with oars on a little boat. We're a very, very tiny little boat rowing from the Canary Islands to Antigua in a race. Over.
We obviously told him that we didn't need rescuing and informed him that our EPIB had been set off by a giant wave that had broken over the boat.
The morning after the big storm, and we had a huge storm last night.
Luckily we survived that storm.
We were very lucky to have survived it.
We've got 18 miles to go, and the Atlantic Ocean is throwing everything at us. Absolutely everything. Bill and I are surviving at the moment.
On the fourth morning of the storm, the wind dropped to about 35 knots. All of a sudden in the distance I saw a helicopter, and I knew that it was our camera crew, and the possibilities of seeing our wives on board was also very great.
It was only really when we were out there that I really got a sense of the tremendous isolation and just understanding like how massively vulnerable they've been for such a long time.
When we saw the helicopter turn and eventually see us in the water, it was an indescribable moment. It was incredibly emotional. All of us were crying. We had been out at sea for 50 days.
It was fantastic to see him, but it was also tantalising and frustrating because I could see him, I couldn't touch him, and so for me that was actually very, very frustrating.
It's my wife!
Our cameraman, Moose, looked incredibly relaxed on board, and it was the first time during that storm that we realized that there was a good possibility of us making this race alive, and it was the first time in 12 days that we could find out what our position was.
And we signalled to Moose hanging out the door to see if we were still in first place, and he showed us a finger, and I've never been so happy to see a finger in my life because there was only one of them there.
And that was that we were still in the lead, and that was that we were still going to win this race.
A really hard graft and a hard effort to catch them, and if we keep that time quite small, then you know that'll be proven.
And this is it. The last bit of daylight on our voyage, and there it is. There's Shirley Point.
The very first thing I'm going to do is headbutt him really hard, and then I'm going to crepe him.
Just one question. Are we the first doubles in, over?
Well, first pair. This is the most amazing thing in the world. I cannot describe the feeling. We're just about to win the world's toughest rowing race, and there's a boat that's only 3 hours behind us. It's going to be one of the closest. It's going to be the closest finish ever. And echoing across the water, I said, "Go, Dad!" And that was it. Our kids were there. Our family was there. The finish line was there. This epic journey was about to come to an end. It's been fantastic. It's been bloody tough, but it's fantastic. Thanks, Pete.
Okay.
I would never have done it without you.
Bill, same, likewise.
I'm sprinting for the finish now.
Well done.
Watch it. Believe me, I am. I promise. I'll try.
Unbelievable. Here we are in Antigua, 5,000 kilometers away from the start. We've done it. We've pushed hard. And it's just unbelievable. We are going to celebrate tonight.
Getting to the quay inside English Harbour and seeing hundreds of people singing Nkosi Sikelele and just absolutely celebrating a South African win is the highlight of my life.
As As I stepped off the boat, my oldest son Ben grabbed me. And if he hadn't, I would have fallen back into the water because the land was moving more than the boat was.
All I wanted to do was hold my family and tell them that I'd never ever do that again to them.
I was on the quay holding my family for the first time in 2 months.
We love you, brother. Welcome to the Caribbean.